So I guess we'll try to get started. I wanted to welcome you and thank you for coming. We have a pretty good core group of people now, so people keep coming. So what I'm asking is to spread the word. I wanted to take a moment and thank Dan for helping us with our breakfast every month. And to Father Rodney for hosting us. In a minute, we'll ask him to say a few words. Today we're very lucky. We're going to learn about value banking from Brett Lawhead and Brian Kalinsky. Brett is the manager here of the WSFS Bank at Limekiln Pike and Welsh Road, right on the corner, nice little building there. And Brian is Senior Vice President of the Mortgage Department. So thrilled to have you, and we appreciate it. So without further ado, I'll introduce, one last thing, I'd like to thank Matt for helping us with a lot of the IT stuff. Thank you. And also St. Bill Gallagher here from Father Rodney.
Well, welcome everyone. I want to just say a prayer, especially this weekend. I know you're all ready for Thanksgiving, right? Everything's prepared. Always sneaks up on us. As we say, this is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. God, we thank you for this new day. As the sun rises, may we give thanks for the dawning of a new day. New opportunities to give thanks for this life that we have in your name. Be with all those here present and their families. Be with our community. Be with our faith communities. And may we live lives that are filled with thanksgiving for our innumerable blessings. Be with everyone on this upcoming Thanksgiving season. Be with all those who travel. Be with those who mourn and for whom these holidays can be difficult. And we ask that your blessing be upon us as we draw to the end of this year and pray to begin a new one. And for all of our blessings, we give thanks. Amen.
Okay, Brett, take
Right.
it away.
How is everyone? My name is Brett Lawhead. As Mike had mentioned, I am the branch manager of the WSFS branch out in Maple Glen. I have been with WSFS for about 8 years now, but I've been in the field for about 20. I started off at TD Bank, I went to First Niagara Bank, Harleysville National Bank, and now I'm at WSFS. So I've been doing this for about 22 years. I passed out my business cards and some giveaways. If anyone didn't get them, let me know because I have a bunch of extra stuff up here. Please use my business card, even if it's just as a resource. If you guys ever need anything, questions, anything, not just if you want something, like even just a question, do not hesitate to reach out to me. Throughout the presentation, I'm going to go over probably 15-20 minutes of the banking side. I'm going to turn it over to my partner here, Brian. He's the mortgage guy. He's going to help you guys out, purchasing a home, refinancing a home. You, any family members, any friends, anyone that you know needs information on that, Brian's your guy for that. But just to get started, we're going to do I want to have some back and forth. I don't want to just stand up here and talk the whole time. So I'm going to ask some questions. I got some cool giveaways in addition to the stuff that we already put here for prizes. So first, does anybody know what WSFS stands for? I'll take two answers because there's the real one and kind of what we turned it into in the last 5-10 years. Does anybody want to take a guess?
WSFS.
What does it stand for? What do the letters WSFS stand for? So that's what we turned it into. That's what we turned it into. Do you know what it stands for, like the original bank name? What's that?
Hey, here's a hint. It started in Delaware.
There you go. That's a good hint. You got it.
Savings Fund Society. There you go.
Good. So now you got two choices here. I knocked off my own name.
So what's the answer?
What's that?
What's the answer?
Wilmington Savings Fund Society. It's about almost 200 years old at this point.
Yeah, that's part of my presentation.
Oh.
All right, so you got it. Since you won, we have these neat little, if you ever lose power, these neat little lanterns. What's one of those guys? All right, perfect.
That's a nice gift.
Yes. What's that? Yeah, trust me, there's gonna be plenty of chances to win some stuff here. All right, so as Brian mentioned, WSFS has been around. It's actually 192 years old. WSFS was founded in 1832, so we're one of the longest standing community banks. It's actually a huge deal because in this day and age, it's usually like the Wells Fargos of the world, the Bank of Americas of the world. They're the ones that usually survive. So to have a small, tight-knit bank, survive for almost 200 years is a really, really great thing. We have 114 offices, 88 of which are branches, and that's across Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware. 57 in Pennsylvania, 39 in Delaware, 14 in New Jersey, 2 in Florida. So that's just a little history on WSFS. So moving on, so now when you would come into a bank, we're going to separate it into two sides here, deposit side and loan side. So what are some of the things you think you need to come into a bank for? Like what kind of products do you need? What kind of services do you need just for like day to day? What's that? Car loan is a good one. You said refinance. All right, so you went right to the loan side. That's all good. We do all need that.
Deposit, withdraw, make copies of the checks you deposit for something you needed.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, those as well. Yeah. That's great. You guys named almost everything. So we have our checking accounts. That's obviously you would link your debit card to. You pay your bills from, all that kind of stuff. We have our savings accounts. That's where you keep your money to earn your interest and whatnot. We have our money market accounts. Does anyone ever hear of money market accounts? Kind of like a hybrid account. You can write checks out of it like it's a checking account, but it also earns interest. So if you have a larger balance you want to put aside just to earn interest, but you still need to
for that
access.
you need money.
What's that?
For that you need money.
Absolutely. And then someone said certificates of deposit. Does anyone ever hear those and know what they're used for? It's if you want to lock money away, you don't need to touch it for a really long time. They'll give you higher interest rates, but the downside to that is if you lock it away and you do a 2-year CD, you'll get penalized if you withdraw it before that maturity date. So that's really just money that I'm not going to need for a while, so I'm going to lock it away. But your benefit to that is you will get a lot higher interest for that.
Annuities are better.
What's that?
Annuities are better
So
than CDs.
I have that. That's on the last page too, because we do have, even though we don't offer annuities at the branch, we have partners for everything. So if you guys came in and said, I want to refinance my house, I want to buy a house, I'm going to hook you up with Brian. You came in and said, you know what, I just don't like those CD rates, I wanted something a little better. We have a partner who's a financial advisor. He does stocks, bonds, annuities, and all
Yeah,
that
I
kind of
have a
stuff.
financial advisor over at a PNC bank, and he works for the bank, but he's kind of independent of the bank.
Yeah.
In other words, he just has to follow the regulations. Unlike a private financial
Yep.
advisor, banks generally have their own requirements. They come in randomly and check the guy, whereas
Oh, yeah.
a private advisor, you may only see the state once a year. So if the guy decides he's going to, he's run into some financial problems, he can take the money and run to the Caribbean or something like that before the state ever discovers it.
Right. So-
Banks randomly come in and.
Well, that's in the news, as of yesterday, the day before. There was a interim investment company that right now has basically run away with about $120-some million
Yeah.
of people's money that they don't even know where it's at.
When it comes to banks, when the guy works for the bank, the financial advisor, which I'm sure your guys have the same rule, the banks also send in people to
Oh, yeah,
check
we
the
check
Yeah,
out
we're
accounts.
audited quite a bit.
And the thing about that is they never know when this person's gonna come in.
Yep.
With the state, they schedule that the guys, that they're gonna come in and take a look at the guy. So if he's been playing games with the money, it's time to leave.
Well, that's the good thing about coming to see a financial advisor at a bank, not just with like any advisor attached to a branch, because we are audited heavily. They do check up on them quite a bit, so that's
More
definitely
importantly than that, it's randomly. It's
100%.
random.
Yeah, if they tell you when they're coming, it's not much of an audit, right? You have a little time to
Show
prepare
up,
for it.
you know?
Yeah,
And say,
absolutely.
we wanna see your.
Yeah, we don't
books."
like them.
Yeah. All right, and so we separated kind of the things that we're working on. We separated it into our checking, savings accounts, the accounts where you're going to put your money to earn interest, to pay your bills and things like that. And then we have our loans where you're going to borrow money, buy a house, buy a car. So just kind of moving back to the spots where we're going to put our money. Does anybody, this is my next one where I have some prizes. Does anyone know what FDIC stands for and what it does?
Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation.
And what does it do?
It basically guarantees the money.
Correct.
So in other words, if the bank were to go bankrupt, you're
Correct.
guaranteed up to a certain amount, even though in a lot of cases, even if your account is higher than the amount, the FDIC.
Right.
What is the other one? FSLC, I think, for savings and loans. They will guarantee it even if it's higher than the amount.
Perfect. So yeah, I gave you got your prize. So it is the Federal Deposit Insurance Company, and it does insure your deposit. So we've had actually in the last few years, you went like 20 years, you didn't hear anything about it. But in the last 3-4 years, you've seen some banks fail. Now, luckily, not many of them were around here. We had like Silicon Valley Bank in California. What's the other ones here? We had Silvergate Bank, Signature Bank, and they failed. And just to know, even if, I'm certainly not rich, but if I went to my bank and the doors were locked and my money was gone, I'd be in trouble. So it's just good to know. And they will insure you up to $250,000, which is more than I will ever have in my bank account as long as I live. But there's ways around it. So if you have, you and your wife, you put your wife on the account, now you're each insured for $250,000, so you're insured for $500,000. You do you and your wife, and you put one of your kids as a beneficiary. Everyone gets $250,000. So there's ways to make sure that even if there's millions of dollars, it's all safe and secure. You never have to worry about.
Also, they guarantee that's for each account. So if you have several accounts,
Correct. Yeah, it's
each
per
account
deposit or
is-
per account. That's
And
exactly
sometimes
right.
they actually go up to $1 million for each account anyway, depending
Yeah. Yep.
on what's happened.
All right, so the next thing I want to talk about, we're still in that. The reason I brought up the FDIC is because, where we're going to want most of our money to be is in the savings side of things. A lot of folks, and I am guilty as charged. If I put all of my money from my paycheck into my checking account, you ever notice how even if you get a raise or you're making more money, you always seem to end up waiting for that next paycheck? It's like you get more, you spend more type of thing. So it's such a huge deal. One of the biggest misconceptions is there's no point in having a savings account. I don't have enough to save. I don't have enough to put over there. Even if you do, $20 out of every paycheck, you would be amazed at how quickly that's going to add up. So one of the things in the presentation that I kind of copied from I had 3 or 4 different WSFS presentations that we kind of combined into one. It's all about budgeting to save money. It says pay yourself first. The most important person you can pay is yourself. Having a portion of your paycheck directly deposited into your savings account rather than putting it all into your checking account is a great place to start. If the balance in your checking account is exceeding what you need to pay your bills for your day-to-day life, all that extra money, put it into a savings account. I thought this was a really cool thing because it kind of puts it into perspective. If you do a deposit, you just you save up and you put $5,000 into a savings account, and for 25 years you just put $100 out of each paycheck into that account, and they just do an average interest rate of, say, you're getting 3% on that product. Your money in there is $35,000 when you figure out the $100 a paycheck, the $5,000 you started with. But at the end of 25 years, there's going to be $55,176, meaning the bank basically gave you $20,000 in 25 years just for having your money sitting in that account. So I just can't stress enough, guys, don't ever feel like I need to be able to put at least thousands of dollars in there. $5 a paycheck, $10 a paycheck, it adds up really, really quick, I promise you that. Alright, so that we kind of hammered home the accounts, the checking, the savings, all that kind of stuff. Let's move kind of to the loan side of things here. And this is going to actually kind of intersect with Brian's presentation because a lot of his is going to be about getting yourself, financially ready and credit worthy to purchase homes and things of that nature. So let me ask, I don't want to know what it is, let me stress that, but does everyone in here know their credit score? Show of hands if you know what your credit is. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. And you'd be amazed how many times there's 1 or 2 people. It is so important to know your credit score on so many levels. Number one, you should be looking at it at least once a year. And there's a couple reasons for that. Number one, there's the legit reason, which is my credit was getting hurt. I had no idea. I went to a doctor, a specialist that had, and there was like a $112 bill, and I didn't even know I owed. It never got mailed to me, and it showed like 5 years ago I was at this, eye doctor, and I still owed him $112. I wouldn't have known that if I didn't pull up my credit report. So just by having an annual review of my own credit report, I was able to see, oh, I owe that guy money, and then boom, my credit goes right back up. Number two, the not so good reason, which is you can find out if somebody's using your information, using your social to go buy a car, refinance a house. So you have the legitimate reasons that it's good to know your credit, and you have the scary, fraudulent reasons that it's good to always know your credit.
Can I add
Yeah,
something?
please do.
So, federal government about 3 years ago passed an act. So you're allowed to get your credit report once a year for free, every single year. So, I mean, they cost us, when we run them, anywhere between 60 to 70 bucks. But by law now, you are allowed to get yours for free every single year. It's only once a year, but there's 3 major repositories. You just go in and Google them, and you can go right to them, and they set you up an account. You set a password, and they'll run your credit every single year, and you'll get it. And that way, you're not surprised by something that came on. And what Brett was saying, in my business, a lot of times people come to me and they go, well, okay, you have a lower credit score. And they're like, I pay everything. And it's like, yeah, but your insurance company didn't pay $27 for something at a doctor's office. And they'll go put a lien on you. Philadelphia Parking Authority is now putting liens on people instead of chasing them around for parking tickets, because it's an easier way for them to get the money. Because if they come to me or come to him or something, you say, you gotta pay it off. And they're smart now. They're using electronics. And the problem with electronics is, it is electronic, and it's hard to get somebody on that phone to figure out where it is. But the credit report will give you that account, give you that number, give you the who it is, and then you call them up and try to deal with it. And it's free.
That's a great point, and it's actually, goes hand in hand with what I was gonna say next, which is be careful. You're gonna see commercials for, the credit karmas and things like that are gonna say, free credit score, check your credit score for free. They're not free. They're gonna get you to sign up for something. You're gonna start getting, a 1099 bill each month for this credit karma. So what Brian was saying, go directly to the credit bureau, or there's one other site, it's annualcreditreport.com. Once a year, you can pull your credit for free. Just be careful of the ones advertised on TV, because a lot of times it's like, you can go in there for 5 seconds, but if you want to print, it's going to charge you, 20 bucks, or you're going to see a monthly charge. So just know either directly to the credit bureau or the annualcreditreport.com, and you should be checking that once a year, like for the surprises and the things that you weren't sure of. Borrowing plays a very important role in your financial journey. Meaning that, and I know what this is like, because when I was younger, we all do. I got myself into a little trouble, and you got too many credit cards, you get a little bit behind, and it really does handcuff you. You want to buy a car, you want to buy a house. Like most banks have that minimum score requirement. They need to even look at you for that kind of stuff. So it's just being careful. It's being mindful. Some key benefits to having a good credit score: you're going to get lower interest rates. So if you and I walk into the bank together and you have an amazing credit score and my credit score is not so great, you're gonna have less of a payment each month. You're gonna pay the bank back less, because they're gonna look at you as a more prime borrower that's more likely to pay back and not have any issues. In addition to great credit scores, has anyone heard of debt to income? So debt to income is basically you take your monthly debt, your car payment, your mortgage payment, all your bills, and you divide it by what you bring in, what you're making in your paycheck. So they're the 2 biggest things that lenders are going to look at when you go to apply for a credit card or an auto loan or a mortgage. Is what's their debt to income look like how much are they making versus how much is going out to their bills, and what's their credit score. That's a great number to show. Do they pay their bills back? Are they on time with things? So there are 2 things that you definitely want to be careful of and make sure you take good care of. All right, so we went through the checking, the savings, and all that. So on the loan side of things that WSFS offers and most banks offer, we offer loans, we offer lines of credit, we offer personal credit cards. We even have unsecured loans. An unsecured loan, the rate's going to be a little bit higher because we don't have any collateral. If you walk away, we just take a loss on that money. So the rate's always going to be higher on products like credit cards and unsecured loans because we're not holding anything. Mortgages, they have the house, so they can give you the 3 or 4 or 5%. Well, probably not anymore, but back in the day, we can't do that with the personal loan or the credit card. Our number one thing that we do at our branch is home equity loans, because if you work so hard your whole life, your house is your most prized possession, If you have equity in it, it's the cheapest way to borrow money. It is the easiest way. That's the number one thing we do is the lines of credit. What else do we got here? Personal lines, credit cards. All right. So we talked a lot about the checking, the savings, the personal loans. There are also certain situations, we touched on this a little earlier, that arise that maybe I personally as the bank manager or my employees, my tellers aren't able to assist with. But we have an avenue to pass. It doesn't matter, you're a business owner and you walk in and say, I want to start accepting debit cards. I was cash only and I'm losing out on all this business. I need to be able to accept credit cards. I have a merchant services rep that I'm going to hook you up with that's going to get you the swipe machine to be able to take credit cards and debit cards. You don't like our rates. I can do so much better if I'm in the market. I can do so much better with an annuity. I have my financial advisor that I can hook you up with that he's going to give you better rates. And it's completely free. Services of the bank. Anything that you need that I'm going to pass you off to is a warm handoff. I'm going to introduce you. You're still going to be with the WSFS associate and they're still going to be able to take care of you. Last but not least, which will be a good segue here, you come in, my rate is so high, I need to refinance my mortgage, or me and my wife we're looking to buy our first home. I'm going to hook you up with this guy. And I've been working with this guy. I've been with WSFS for 8 years, and he's been my mortgage rep for 8 years. So it's not one of those things where I have a new guy every 2 weeks that I have to, talk up and sell. I know Brian. Brian has taken care of so many of my customers that I would give a family member to him, and I know that he would take great care of them. So with that, without further ado, you want to touch a little bit on what you do and your mortgage stuff?
Sure, thanks. I've been doing it for close to 40 years, so obviously a lot of changes. I was talking with Mike earlier, he says, well, it's really expensive to buy a house. It is, and then it's not. I just did a loan for a lady down towards Philadelphia area. We gave her $10,000 from the WSFS grant. We got $10,000 for her from another grant that we belong to. It's called First Front Door, as a first-time home buyer, and then she got the Philly Lift grant. So she got $25,000 to buy her house. This lady came to bought a house for $500. So what I'm saying is knowledge is the key, and sometimes you don't qualify for it. Sometimes you qualify for it. I have a girl that is my assistant, that my teammate, that she looks through people and she runs it all through, finds out. There's Montgomery County grants, there could be in Northside. I mean, there's so many grants out there, and it's fuel, our bank does it. So Brett, they gave us $5 million last year for this down payment program. We spent that gone, and then they gave us another 500, we spent that, and then they said, oh, okay, one more 500, they gave us another 500, and we spent that. So the area got $6 million worth of grant money from just WSFS alone. And when you saw some other people, banks got fined and all this stuff that went on, that money, when the government takes it and fines people for it, they turn around, they put it back into the economy, and they put it back into housing, basically. The Philadelphia Lift program was another bank about 4 or 5 years ago, they got caught doing something. All that money is in there, and it's being reinvested into the communities. And so sometimes when people say, I don't have enough money to buy a house, they're wrong, because it's amazing how all of a sudden you can find money. And it doesn't cost you anything to talk to me and Jasmine. We run the stuff for free, the bank does it as a service. We're licensed all over the country, but obviously certain areas that we target for the bank, you can get great deals. And we also have a first-time home buyer program right now. People can come in and put 3% down. They can get it as a gift, or they can get it as a grant. They can have what they want, and we'll go as low as 620 on a credit score. And we will not charge them mortgage insurance, and we give a discounted rate if it's in a targeted area that we're looking at. And it's surprising because it's a map, and sometimes I'm surprised at where it's at. I just did a loan in Phoenixville, which it's a growing area. I didn't think that would be in the targeted map, but it was. There's just all kind of different areas. So knowledge, what I'm saying, is the key, and it doesn't cost you anything. We're free. We do as a service at the bank, and yes, credit's important, but there's also other products out there that take into account some things that people have had difficulties in the past or whatever. The other thing that has become very popular over the past year with us is reverse mortgages. People own their properties already, and they don't have enough money to live on. The reverse first mortgage was the wild, wild west about 5 years ago. People got in trouble. That no longer exists. The government has stepped in and really made changes to protect the consumers. So they can never take their house. They can never get you out of your house. None of that stuff is true. And because we're a bank, we're a lot less expensive than some of the people that are out there on their own with a mortgage broker company or any other type of companies. But all I say is, I have some stuff for first-time home buyers if anybody's interested. As I was telling Brett, most of the time when I do these things, half the time it's not the people that are sitting here, it's their kids, it's their cousins, it's their brother, it's their whatever, who might have just a question. And like I said, if I don't know it, I'd be surprised. But I can call my underwriter right now today, and he'll pick up the phone on Saturday morning, guaranteed. Or I'll shoot him an email and it'll come back. So it's just knowledge, and I was telling Mike earlier, there's a lot of people where I still have relationships in my pipeline for 2 years. They're still going to get something somewhere, sometime, and I don't mind that. We just stay with them. What we usually do is we meet the people. I usually don't pull their credit report right away because it's what they call a hard pull, and it pulls their score down a couple points. So I usually will talk to somebody. Again, most of you all raise your hand. You know your credit score from your Discover card or your Visa card or whatever, and we use that number to get a list of the debts. And Brett was talking about that income ratio. We find out how much income you have, we find out what the debts are, we get the credit report, and we run it through a myriad of, AI is great for this now. It tells us everybody that is fitting in certain categories, and we look at it, and then sometimes we try to tweak the categories. And again, some people take up to a year. Some people will come in and say, I'm not buying for a year, and then they come up tomorrow, I just saw a house, Brian, I need to put on for tomorrow. But to get the stuff out of the way, to learn how much it's going to take to cost, learn what grants that are out there that may offset all that cost. You can get seller credit, and so sometimes you can use them as well to offset the cost for people to buy homes. So I just tell everybody, the misconception is I can't afford a house, but 90% of the time, the loans I do, it's the same amount of payment that they're paying now to buy a house. But you just got to find the money, and sometimes there's a lot more money out there than there is that people think about it. And most of the people will re-up March 1st, March 15th. They'll be ready for the spring market, and our grant will be coming back up for the spring market. The first front door grant will be coming up. And the first front door grant is probably the greatest thing in the world, I think. That's my most favorite one. We're a member of the banks that do this. You're not going to get it at Wells Fargo. You're not going to get it at Bank of America. You're not going to get it. It's more of the smaller banks in these areas that got together to do this. And it's up automatically $10,000 and sometimes $15,000. And that's a lot of money. And then when you combine it with some other stuff, again, you can turn around and get $20,000 to some thousand worth of free money. And it's mind-boggling to me because I saved my butt off for my first house. I never got a grant, never even heard of a grant. And they weren't around. And it wasn't until the last 10, 12 years that the grant monies have just exploded. And the government's in on it, but like our NOP, it's called the Neighborhood Opportunity Program. It's a great product, it's wonderful, and if it's in the area, you can have 3% down, no mortgage insurance. Now, somebody else is coming to me and they're making $200,000 and they're gonna put 3% down, they're automatically paying $180 a month of mortgage insurance. Minimum. This program, if you're making under a certain level, you don't pay anything. And it's a lot of money. And I tell people, you don't know until you ask. And if we say no, we might say no. But if you maybe pay this thing off, or do you have a relative that might be able to give you $5,000, or if you have a church, do you have this? I mean, there's so many grants out there that, it's just knowledge. And our bank is pretty good at it. We have one person that's trying to scour the area all the time. And so we have a big blog that has all the grants on it. And so we'll try to run through that because it changes a lot, and it's a lot. It's just a lot of information. We have a call every Wednesday. Somebody gets on like, I didn't know that grant existed. I didn't know union down in Philadelphia, and if you have somebody that was relative in it a long time ago, they'll give you $1,000. $1,000 is $1,000.
And the worst part is, like you were saying, like your realtor's not gonna tell you that. He's like, oh, you know, the price is this, but when we get that $3,000 for it, that's why knowledge is power. Because I mean, I've been working in banking in 22 years. Half the grants that he tells about, I have no idea. I've never seen them anywhere. I've never heard of them anywhere. I'm educated now just because of talking to him. Like, so it's just all about.
And a lot of times borrowers and Google, you know, and it's amazing. So sometimes borrowers say, oh, I got this grant for what? I've never heard of that grant. So it's powerful. And like I said, it's free. And anybody that you would send to us, we don't charge them for any of the stuff. And even if they decide to pull the credit report, we're going to spend $60, $70 to pull it, and we're not charging them either. So, I mean, the bank, I've been in a lot of places, and this is a very community. I mean, we're a pretty big size group. We'll do $70 million in loans a month, which isn't, you know, it's not a little number, but it's not a bigger number either. But we do it really well, and it's very electronic and it's very smooth. And I love my underwriters, and the people that I work with are just, you know, one of the best ones I've ever worked with in these areas. So I'll hand out my card, or we want it, and I have the first time home buyers thing if anybody wants it. And if you wanted an email to you, that's easier too, because it's all in color, it's not nice to email. And it's just a deck sheet, and you just go through it. But it basically walks through this stuff I'm telling you, how to save money, how to look at different things, how different grants there are, how different programs there are. But it's just basically a little bit of a roadmap. And there's, like I said, there's usually the people that take it, they hand it to a kid, cousin, somebody, and that's usually the person that ends up maybe learning some information on it. Have any questions? Okay.
And while Brian's passing that out, I just also wanted to let you guys know, and there's stuff for home buyers on this too. I think Mike had sent some stuff out. If you just go to our website, WSFS, I know it's a mouthful, WSFSbank.com, and you look under the personal tab, you'll see resources. There is hundreds of resources for home buying, managing, budgeting your money. And there's some that are themed towards the time of year. So there's one that says budgeting during the holiday season. There's security. Right now there is it's just so much different fraud out there. Debit card fraud. You ever get one of those text messages saying you have a package waiting for you at the post office? And you're like, I didn't order a package. They just want you to click that link. There's so much fraud out there. So it's always good to stay on top of that, to know kind of what's going on with that. But it's all free. You can click on, you know, personal resources, all resources. You're going to see hundreds of different categories and things you can read for that. Again, it's another situation where knowledge is power. Like, you know, first of all, nobody from the bank is ever going to call you and ask for your social security number. They're never going to ask for your birth date. So right off the bat, if you get a phone call saying this is Nancy from Wells Fargo or Brett from WSFS and I need to know your birth date and your social, it's fraud. We're never going to ask those types of questions on the phone.
They're good.
They're really good.
It's amazing how much fraud exists. It's amazing how much fraud exists. Like, one of our biggest things, and all the banks are now thinking, we're thinking about closing the drive-thrus down, because that's where a lot of it happens.
So go to the
Especially
bar,
that second teller.
yeah.
If you go to a second teller, that second one on the side, and you try to cash a check, you're gonna get hassled. Because that's the #1 spot where fraud occurs. And eventually, they're gonna go away. Because it's just absolutely amazing. Our bank will be pretty good. They'll find somebody, they'll try to do something on Limekiln Pike down here, and Brett will catch it. And it doesn't take them 20 minutes, they're over in Flower Town trying to do the same thing at our same bank, but we already know about it. And they just keep going, and it's absolutely amazing.
We have email chains, so
I mean, it's kind of like criminal. It's like when we see them, like when people wash checks and look at it, like, wow, that is so good. And then recently out in Trooper, we had fraudulent $50 bills. They look so good. It was absolutely amazing.
They got better.
With the new copiers and the high-tech stuff, it's really, I mean, it's kind of interesting to see how they put their mind to their real job, they make big money. But it's interesting. So you gotta watch out for fraud, and like you said, in almost everything you do, especially on the phones.
It's a sin. So when I first started, maybe once a month we have someone come in. I think someone got into my debit card. I think someone got into my online banking. Nowadays, realistic number, twice a week, I'm sitting down with a customer who's debit card with, and it could be anything from a skimmer in a machine to, you ever have, go to a restaurant where they take your card back behind the counter to swipe it. So I don't want you guys to be paranoid and think everyone's out to get you, but be safe. Know that it's out there, know that it's happening quite a bit. It's debit cards, it's like Brian said, it's check washing. We have people that'll send out emails and say, I'm so-and-so from the phone, I just need you to click this link. So there's so much different stuff, just be aware of it.
And then.
Do you guys have any questions for us? Anything, yeah?
Do you use a gel pen? Is that how they can't wash the check? They use a gel pen?
Well, you talking about the fraudsters?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the fraudsters, the number one thing with the check washing is we've had, I think it was actually in Bluebell, they'll go into post office, they'll go into mailbox, they'll take people's bills out, they'll open them, they'll wash Pico or whoever you're trying to pay off the check, and then they'll write their name or whoever they want to make the check payable to. Now, the good thing is, a lot of those do get caught by the branch because we clearly see that someone's not writing a $2,800 check to Joe Smith. You know what I mean? It could happen, but we'll call and verify that. That's the one good thing that I always say, especially me, I have a background in both. I worked at TD Bank, where it's a huge bank all down the East Coast, and now I'm with a smaller community bank, because we get to know our customers. So when you walk in the branch, it's not like, hey customer, it's hey Miss Smith, how are the kids? And that goes a long way in preventing fraud, because if somebody walks in and cashes a check for Joe Smith, and I know it ain't Joe Smith, I'm not cashing the check, you know what I mean? Whereas at a different bank, maybe they don't know what he looks like, they see 10,000 people a day. So that's another great thing about community banks, is you really get to know your customers. We err on the side of caution more than anything. If I get a large check, even if it looks completely legit, I will go behind the teller line, I will call the maker of the check and say, hey, just wanted to make sure, did you write a $3,000 check to this contractor? Oh yeah, I'm having my deck done. Okay, just wanted to make sure. And customers appreciate that, because the one time you don't call, maybe it wasn't supposed to go to that contractor. So, that's a great question. Anyone else?
Does it help to write with a gel pen though?
I don't know. I'm not answering that question.
I don't think that would really make much
I
difference.
think it does, because if the gel, they use some kind of chemical on the ink
Okay.
to get it off the regular ballpoint pen, but if you use the gel, it
Okay.
bleeds, it won't, so it'll be all smeared.
That makes sense to me. I can get behind that.
Well, and just to add in on that, we have a pretty sweet app for our checking and savings accounts. And a lot of people will say, I'm scared of that. I'd rather write a check. And there's more fraud with the checks than with any of our apps, because of the fact that it leaves a footprint. Every little transaction you do has a specific number, and that number disappears within a really short period of time. So it can never be gotten again. And so with the application, you can go on and you can set, pay Pico on that day, pay that guy on that day, pay that guy, and forget about it. And we've come a long way. When we first put it in, it was very clunky. And then we got a lot of stuff back from honestly, 28-year-olds. That's where they went. And they said, listen, how do we make this good? And now it's all swipe, and it's so much better than it used to be, but it's actually less fraud that way.
Well, the best one is how banks handle cashier's checks now. A lot of times, they use certain color inks on certain days, and certain people sign the checks on certain days. So if that person in that color ink isn't for that day, every branch knows, and most of the other banks do too, know who's supposed to sign it on Monday.
And now in my business, the total companies aren't even taking certified checks. They don't want it. You either wire the money or you don't wire the house. And that way, it's wired, they get the money, it's done, and it's done deal. Have you got a question?
I'm so glad you asked that. So, Maria asked a great question that I wanted to touch on. Well, I will promise you we'll get back to you. So, I did bring some guides here, because when we talked about the different types of checking, checking savings, it's important to know it's not a one-size-fits-all type of thing. You're walking into the bank, the biggest thing that I want to make sure for my customers is that you're not going to get charged. Nobody wants a checking account where $6 a month goes out the door just because you shouldn't have to pay to keep your money in the bank. So when you walk in the door, we get to know how you're gonna do business. You're gonna have direct deposit going into that account, or you're gonna use a debit card with that account, online banking. And based upon that, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different types of accounts. So we're always gonna make sure we find the one that you fit into, that you're not gonna have any type of fee. I'm gonna give you this, but you also, when you go onto WSFSbank.com to look at the resources, you can look at our product guide. It's the same with the checking and the savings. So if you walk in the door, I wanna start a savings account, I'm gonna start it with $100, that's gonna be a certain account. You walk in and say, I just inherited $8,000, that's gonna be a different account, because we wanna maximize your return, your interest, but we also, the number one thing we wanna make sure is that you're not in an account where you're gonna get feed. That's the thing that breaks my heart the most, because it's like, you're literally getting charged for your own money just to sit somewhere. Exactly. So yeah, we will always find the best spots for you. So for example, like we have our basic everyday checking. That everyday checking, you have 2 ways to never have to worry about fees. Number one, if you have any type of direct deposit, whether that's from an employer, whether it's from Social Security, that just means someone who's automatically dumping money into that account right off the bat. It doesn't matter if you have $100, a penny, you will never get charged a service charge. If you do not have any type of direct deposit going into that account, they want you to keep at least $100 in there. So as long as there's $100 there, never a charge, never a fee. I always say, and I know I probably get myself in trouble, but because I feel so strongly about this, like, I am the biggest push. If someone comes in and says, oh my God, Brett, I totally forgot I can make the fee disappear. You know what I mean? Like, there's ways to avoid it, and God forbid it happens once, we will always work through. That's another advantage to the smaller banks, is that it's not like a black and white. Like, we can reverse some fees if you have, an unforeseen circumstance that caused that to happen. That, like I said, that's checking and savings. You can kind of look it over. It just tells you all the different things for each type of account. Yeah, absolutely. I have a bunch of those printed out, and it's also on our website. And it's also, like I said, that was the checking solution. Here's personal savings solutions. It tells you the core savings, the money market, the high yield money market, the club accounts. Have you guys ever heard of the club accounts? You save up for Christmas shopping and stuff like that. We're one of the only banks that still do that. And then CDs, like just for money that you have that you don't need to spend for that higher interest. But like I said, I can pass these out, and also they're on our website, but it's not a one-size-fits-all. When you come in, we're gonna see exactly what type of banking you're gonna do, about how much you're gonna keep on there, what you're gonna use, debit card, online banking, mobile banking. Nowadays, you don't even have to go to the bank to deposit a check. You can take a picture of it. We have the mobile snapshot deposit. So it's like, we try to make it as convenient, but also I don't want to make it so convenient that they don't need me anymore. Because then you go to the branch, you know what I mean? But yeah, that was a great question, though. Absolutely.
And I think just like some of the people tell me, oh, well, at blank blank, I take a picture of it, it's not good for 2 days. That doesn't happen here. You can take that picture at 3 o'clock in the morning, you can spend that money at 9 o'clock. Next morning. I mean, it's very quick. Again, some of the stuff you hear about that happened before doesn't happen.
Yeah, they've got a lot of checks. Great question. Another great question. So
We got questions back here in the corner that you can have her in.
You gave me time to think. I was gonna say 15 years ago, but I think it's more like 20 years ago. I had gone to a bank, as I go around here, and got cash on my way to work. And I stopped at a gas station on 611 to gas up before I got in this
They
driveway.
steal your cards a lot.
And I handed the money, and she says, this is all counterfeit. And she was gonna keep it. I said, it can't be, I just got it from a bank. How does that happen?
Yeah, we usually doesn't, we usually catch them. They have machines that they run it through, and once it gets to us, and then we do keep it, because it has to get turned in. But I think, don't you give people if they bring counterfeit money, don't they get the money somehow backwards?
So yeah, if someone brings counterfeit money to us, and it's not, if it's great, sometimes we'll get away with it, but if we see something right away and we check it right away, our rule, like law from the bank, no matter what bank you go to, we're supposed to keep it. And that breaks my heart too, because sometimes the person just got it from change at the McDonald's, or they went to Wells Fargo, passed their check, Wawa. And like technically, and again, I probably shouldn't say this, but like, because of the fact that I know that the person in front of me is not trying to do something shady, they just got bad money from someone. As a bank, we're supposed to keep it and send it directly back to the Fed, which means the person who gave it to me is just out that $50, $100, $20, whatever they handed me. But there's sometimes where they'll bet, but like, just give it, and I'm gonna go back to the place, and then I'll be like, yeah, just go ahead. So I don't want to see anyone lose money like that.
I got that money right from the bank.
Yeah, it happens. It happens. Yep, it absolutely happens. It's some sneak by. Some of them are so well done that it can sneak right by a bank. It can be given out as change at a major name department store. They're like, what the heck is there fraudulent, $100 bills at Macy's or at a bank? But it happens. Like some of them are really, really good.
You can't do anything at the bank.
Look at you, done. One second, she had her hand up first. Yeah.
Is it a pen or something you want to check?
We do. We have counterfeit pens ready for you. You can also
No, that for me.
yeah, you can go to Staples and you can buy them.
Okay.
Go on Amazon, type in counterfeit pens, it's like $2-3, and what it is any bill, 1, 5, 10, 20, 100, whatever. You draw a stripe on it, and if it stays yellow, it's completely good. If it turns black or like a dark brown, you know it's fake. Yeah, it's not a bad idea, especially in this day and age with all the fraud. It's not a bad. It's a $2 investment to make sure you don't get taken advantage of. For
All right,
sure.
now's your turn.
But yeah.
Okay, so I want to say, where I work, we pay vendors, we go through our QuickBooks, print the checks, mail them, and there's a particular company that always not getting their checks. This and that. And it turned out that, they actually stopped doing business with a particular post office because they felt that there was, the inspector general was involved, that there was like a gang part of the post office. So they were taking the checks, washing them, and so now we have to use positive pay.
Right.
I'm sure you're all for that.
Yep, we offer that too, yeah, that's a big change in the business.
It's another.
Yeah, like you said, changing the business, and it's funny you brought that example, because we had that same exact thing happen in the Bluebell post office, and when I don't think Bluebell was employees, but the number one thing they say is, be careful putting things just in a regular mailbox, take it to the post office. Then these stories broke that there was actually post offices where it was happening at too, and it's like, we're not gonna supposed to pay my bills if I can't go to the post office and I can't put it in the mailbox, because it really makes you nervous. That's where all these like online banking, bill pay, the electronic way, and then like Ryan said, it's actually like the safer way now because it's less likely to get.
And another thing, this is years ago, I was taking my girls, and we were all going to the concert, the girls went to go to. And we had 2 people that weren't up, so we had 2 tickets, and somebody goes to me and said, do you have any extra tickets? And I looked at my friend, and because I didn't know what I was gonna do with them, because at this point, we had.
You're there.
And I'm like, why? And they said, well, because we want to go, we want to buy them from them. And I was like, I just felt so weird about it. But I was like, okay, so we need more money. And, we went in with the concert. Now, those tickets were right next to us. So these people that came in were not the people that bought the tickets from us. They were the people that, we sold them to somebody else. And I went somewhere, it was like before Christmas, I had gone to a particular store and I bought some things for my daughters for Christmas. I thought this is a great time to use this extra money. And between the time I went there and the next morning, I realized that the money was fake. I forget how I figured it out. But I could not live with myself. I got up the next morning, I went to work, I said to work, I gotta go, like 9:45 when they opened up, and I went in and I said, did you guys do your deposit yet? And they said, no, they're probably thinking, what's she gonna do, rob us? And I said, can you go through your bills? And this is what it looks like, and they found the money, and I just gave them cash for cash. I don't even know why we're doing it. It's in some old pocketbook somewhere. But it scared me to death. Well, first of all, I was thinking that they could lose their job. But that store was gonna be out of money. And it was my fault for taking money that wasn't,
Yeah.
I mean, not that I did anything wrong. I didn't. So
No, I mean, it's just
But there's so
more and
many
more,
girls
with
out
these high graphic printers now, it's getting worse.
So I just pulled up counterfeit pens. This is such a cheap and effective way to make sure it never happens to anyone. You can literally get a 5-pack of counterfeit pens on Amazon right now for $6.94. So it's literally like less than a dollar a pen, basically, dude. And it's I'm not saying that you don't have to do it right in front of the person. But even when you get back to your car, or get changed or something, like that doesn't look right. It doesn't hurt to have them. Like I said, we have them all over the bank, and there's no reason you shouldn't protect yourself too.
What do you mean by that? And you can buy it right
Yeah,
now?
oh yeah, like, here, I'll show you. I just pulled it up on Amazon.
Oh, you wouldn't have done this for
Yeah, so I just pulled it up, the first one is like 694.
Oh, you're welcome. I'll agree with you.
Yeah, these are the actual.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, you can just you can dollar a piece. It's definitely a good thing to have.
So, I want to thank Brett and Brian for coming today. I can tell you personally that if you call Brett, he'll call you back. We have a little treasury for our horse remitter fee, and our account is at WSFS. The one thing that Brian mentioned was this no mortgage insurance protection program that they have. If you have put a little bit of money down on a house, you get charged, and that can go on for years till you reach the point where I think you're over 20% of the value of the house. The one thing I will say is the bigger the bank, the bigger the fees. And it's nice to have somebody that you walk into the bank and you know them and they're gonna work on your best interest. So again, I thank Brian and Brett for coming. I hope you'll go see them. Next month, we don't have a formal speaker, but I am hoping that you will come. We're gonna have little small Christmas gifts. And what we're gonna try to do is to do one-on-one talking with you and how can we help you with something in your life that's not working. Like you may have one issue, you may have another issue, you have a third issue. We have a lot of resources available to us that can help. So I hope you, it's to 28th, December 28th, right after Christmas. We will have the speaker schedule for 2025. So in January, we have Montgomery County Department of Housing. February, we have somebody coming in and talking about suicide prevention, which is a real problem with young people nowadays. So we have speakers lined up for next year. What I do want to do is give out these brochures. I may have given you one the other day. Okay, thank you. And I want to thank Matt for putting this together. It's a beautiful brochure. We have a lot of programs, our clothes bank, our food pantry. We now have English second language classes. So I'll give you that.